My son is here taking a plate to go. I'm going to share with you how I make my cheesy chicken Alfredo lasagna. You ready? Let's get started. These are the ingredients that I'm going to be using for my recipe. I'll also share a list of ingredients in the description box below for your reference. But as always, I'm going to share with you and show you how I take these ingredients and put them together to make this wonderful dinner for my family. So first, what I like to do is get my garlic ready. I have 6 large cloves of garlic that I'm going to go ahead and mince up. Now this meal will easily feed 6 people. It's also great for a potluck, but if you are just cooking for 1 to 2 to up to maybe 3 people, you can halve this recipe and go ahead and make the recipe in an 8x8 pan, okay? So you can definitely halve the recipe, make it in an 8x8 pan. It also freezes very well, so you can also make this in the foil pan, make half of it and go ahead and freeze the other half. So it's very versatile. I'm chopping up some fresh flat leaf parsley, and this parsley actually comes from my herb garden. I like to grow herbs, so this parsley came from my herb garden. Now I chopped up quite a bit of parsley, but I'm only going to need about a tablespoon. And likewise, you can also use dried parsley, about a teaspoon. So for my chicken breast, I'm using 2 large chicken breasts, and in my water I also put a couple of pinches of kosher salt. If you don't have kosher salt, you can use regular salt, because we definitely want to season our chicken as it's boiled in the water. Our chicken is looking good, so I'm going to start on my noodles, my lasagna noodles, and I'm using 1 full package of lasagna noodles, which is the 1-pound box. And be sure to move your noodles around so that way they don't end up sticking together. If you are new to my channel, I want to welcome you in, and if you're a returner, I want to thank you for coming back. My name is Dyvonne, and on my channel, I love to share what I cook and bake for my family in my kitchen. Love sharing some old school recipes handed down to me by my mom and my aunties and my grandmother. Also enjoy wonderful Mexican food that I learned how to cook from my 5 awesome sister-in-laws and being in their kitchen. So if you enjoy that type of content, I hope you consider subscribing. And did I mention that I bake? I have a lot of homemade baked scratch recipes in addition to some doctored up cake recipes. So in my pan, this is about a 14-inch or so large pan, and the sides are about 3 inches or so, about 3 to 4 inches. I put in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now once my unsalted butter starts to melt, I added in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. So that was 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter and 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Now to that, I'm going to add in my chopped garlic. So this garlic here that we had chopped and minced, which was 6 garlic cloves, I'm going to saute it in the olive oil and the butter for about a minute to about a minute and a half. And I have my flame on a medium low. I want to go ahead and really have the garlic start to get very aromatic, but I want to be mindful that I don't want to burn my garlic. Then to my pan, after that, about a minute and a half, I add in 1/4 cup of flour. I'm using regular unbleached all-purpose flour or either regular all-purpose flour. Either one of those will work just fine. So this is 1/4 cup of flour, which is the same equivalent to 4 tablespoons of flour. Okay, and so I'll go ahead, I want to saute this, and you see how the flour starts to melt into the butter and the olive oil. You want to continue to mix this around because we want to cook off that raw flour taste. And that's going to take you about 2 minutes, about 2 to 3 minutes is what you want to do. And again, on that medium to low flame. This is what it's looking like, and it's going to turn like a nice creamy color is what you're looking for. We're not going to cook this more than about 2 or 3 minutes because we don't want to brown our flour. We just want to cook it through. Now once it looks like this, then I'm going to add in my half and half. And so this is 4.5 cups of half and half that I have here. I'm using my wire whisk, and the trick to this is you want to keep stirring with your whisk. If you stop stirring throughout the process, what happens is your roux that you're making for your Alfredo sauce, the base, it'll seize up on you. And then you're going to have a hard time working out those big clumps. And so you want to continue to move your wire whisk the whole time. So just keep moving your whisk. So I poured about a cup and a half of my half and half, and then I keep mixing. Now you can also use heavy cream. I like using half and half because I get the same wonderful sauce using half and half, and I found it to be, it's a third of the price. So it makes this meal very economical for my family because I'm using the half and half to make my sauce versus using the heavy cream. But you can also definitely use heavy cream. And so I just keep stirring and just keep stirring. And again, on that medium to low flame is the secret. So you don't want to have your flame too high, and you want to continue to stir just like I'm doing. Be sure to also go around the sides of your pan like I'm doing. The reason is sometimes the flour can kind of just gather around those sides of your pan. So keep stirring and making sure that you go around the outside of the pan just like that, and just keep on stirring. We are going to raise the flame in a little bit, but you just want to keep it on that medium to low flame in the beginning. It gives your sauce really a chance to come together, and you don't want to scorch your sauce. And so as I keep stirring with my wire whisk, once I have the other half, so I kind of do it in about a cup and a half, and then I'll do another cup and a half, and I'll make 3 cups, and then I'll do it in another cup and a half, and that'll make my 4.5 cups. And as you stir, your sauce will continue to come together, and it'll also start to thicken up. You'll see different little lumps in there, and that is going to be your garlic pieces, okay? The garlic won't dissolve. The garlic is going to stay in there, but it's also flavoring our Alfredo sauce. And so you want to have those little pieces of garlic in there. Once I've worked in all of my half and half, I switch from my wire whisk back over to my wooden spoon. I'm going to continue just to gently stir until I start to feel just the slightest bit of resistance. That lets me know my sauce is starting to thicken up. I also went ahead, and once I switched from the wire whisk to my wooden spoon, I raised also the flame. I bumped my flame from that medium-low heat up to medium. Making homemade Alfredo sauce takes a little bit of patience, but I find the payoff is so worth it. And if you want to see how I also make my traditional homemade lasagna, I'll put a link in the description box below. I make my homemade sauce for my lasagna, and so I'll share that with you. And so just check that video out, and that'll be in the description box below for your reference. So as I start to feel that little bit of resistance, and you see it's starting to thicken up, we're going to go ahead, let our sauce simmer a bit. And as it starts to simmer, I'm going to put in a little bit of kosher salt. And you can use kosher salt or regular table salt, and you're going to season your Alfredo sauce to your taste. And I usually use about 1/2 teaspoon, give or take, but definitely you want to season it to your taste. And then if you're using regular table salt, you want to use about 1/4 teaspoon, just a little bit. And then again, though, it's just going to be to your taste. And then I also put in some black pepper, and that was 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And so I'm going to mix this around. It's also starting to thicken up. Once I mix in my kosher salt and my pepper, I'll let my Alfredo sauce simmer on low for about 10 minutes. My Alfredo sauce has been simmering for about 10 minutes. I'm going to taste it for seasoning and see how we're doing. And you see how my sauce is at a gentle simmer? That's what you want your sauce to be simmering at, a nice gentle simmer. My lasagna noodles are out. I've drained them, but I don't rinse them. I just drained them. I shredded my chicken. I have my parsley and my cheese. And then I have my 13x9 casserole dish. Now in my 13x9 casserole dish, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to spread this all around my casserole dish. Now also my cheese, I had the cheese that came in the package, but I knew somewhere in the refrigerator, probably at the outside fridge, I found my mozzarella cheese that was in the block. So I went on and grated that because that's the one that I really like to use. So the cheese that I'm using is the grated cheese from the block instead of the one that's in the bag. It's going to melt much better. I layer 4 pieces of lasagna noodles right at the bottom. And so we're going to be layering 4, and I like to overlap them slightly. And in the description box, I'll put the order in which I like to do my layers for my chicken Alfredo lasagna. So I will provide that so that way you have something to reference back to when you're putting together your lasagna. but I'm also going to show you how I do it as well. So after I put the noodles down, then I like to put my shredded chicken. You can also chop your chicken too, so you can chop it or shred it. I just usually like to shred it. And so I'm going to put my shredded chicken down. I'm going to end up doing a few layers of the chicken. So I'm going to have 3 layers in total of chicken and the filling. So once I put down my chicken, then next I'm going to go ahead and put down some sauce. And so just enough sauce to cover the chicken. So you just want to put your sauce down all over, just cover the chicken really good. Now while I'm doing this, I also went on and turned on my oven. So I have my oven preheating on 350 degrees, okay? And so once I have the chicken covered in my sauce, then I'm going to put down some cheese, just enough cheese to cover it really good. So I grated 4 cups of cheese. You can do plus or minus depending on your liking. Usually 4 cups is plenty of cheese for this lasagna, but then sometimes, you know, I've used about 2.5, 3 cups, depending on how cheesy you want to make it. But anywhere from 2 cups to 4 cups of cheese that you definitely want to use. So I put down then my next layer of my noodles, again overlapping, just like that, overlapping everything. Now to go along with my dinner tonight, I made a garden salad that I have in the refrigerator. So that's going to be perfect to go with this dinner. Now with this lasagna, if you don't want to use chicken, you can actually just leave it out and just do a cheesy lasagna without having chicken in it. You can also put spinach if you want to add spinach to your lasagna. You can also add broccoli to your lasagna. I've added broccoli before in the past. I've done that. So that's come out really nice. So you can just kind of add a couple different things to it, kind of depending on your liking. And you can even make an all veggie lasagna and substitute the chicken for veggies. And you can do zucchini, broccoli, mushroom, and onion and spinach, and saute that first in a pan. And then once you saute that and it's nice and soft, and then you would layer that in substitution of having the chicken. And so a nice veggie lasagna with the cheese and with the sauce and with the noodles, that will come out really good. So those are a few different, ideas when it comes to making dinner. Sometimes we like to switch it up, and I am definitely one that likes to switch it up for the family. And this is layer number 2 that I put down. So this is also the second layer here of the chicken, the sauce, and the cheese. And when it comes to your layers, you don't have to worry too much about them being perfect or evened out, because once it bakes all together, it's just going to bake together really nicely. And the flavors of everything just work so well together. And so this is my last layer of my noodles, then my chicken, and then my sauce. And then of course then my cheese. And then the final layer is going to be my top layer, and that's going to be my noodles. And I usually have about 6 noodles or so, sometimes 7, but usually about 6 noodles I have left. And I go ahead and I just use up the rest of the noodles and I just layer them right on top. And with the balance of the sauce that goes on top, you want to make sure that you have about a half a cup left to put on top of the lasagna. So about half a cup is what you want to have that you're going to be putting on top as that final layer. And just go ahead and smooth it, and you can see all of those pieces of garlic. It's looking good. This is smelling so good. And then I also have about a half a cup of mozzarella cheese that I layer right on top. Then I put on my parsley. I like to finish it off with that nice fresh parsley. And if you don't have any fresh parsley, you can use dried parsley. That'll work fine. I'm going to cover this with some foil. Now when I cover it with my foil, I like to tint it a bit, so my cheese doesn't end up sticking to the foil too much. And then I'm going to put this in my oven at 350. It's going to be a total of 40 minutes, so that way everything can come together and the cheese can melt so nice. Now after 30 minutes, I take the foil off and I cook it for an additional 10 minutes with the foil off. Now after I've cooked it for that additional 10 minutes with the foil off, if you want to have it a little bit toasty and browned on top, after you let it cook for that 10 minutes, turn on your broiler. Turn on the broiler for about 5 minutes, and then you can get this nice beautiful golden around the edges and on top, but that's optional. So 30 minutes with the foil on, then 10 minutes with the foil off, and then if you want to do an additional 5 minutes just to kind of under that broiler to just toast it up a little bit, and that's kind of just personal preference. But this is what our lasagna is looking like. I let it sit for about 10-15 minutes before I go ahead and dive into it because it was piping hot. I'm going to go ahead and serve us up some, and we're going to see how we did. The family is ready to eat. They have started to filter into the kitchen. But y'all are my guests, and we always serve guests first. That's how Mom taught me. So our guests get to eat first. They get the first plate and they get the first bite. And it is looking good and it is smelling good. So are you ready? And you know, I let this cool down some, but it is still piping hot. And if you want to make this for just 1, 2, or 3 people, you can make it using the 8x8 pan and just go ahead and just reduce the recipe to half. And with that smaller pan, with your lasagna noodles, go ahead and cut your lasagna noodles in half. Well, this first bite's for you. Go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite. Y'all, this has come out so good, and it does not disappoint. The family always enjoys it. And this is my son. He is taking himself a plate to go, and he also enjoyed a plate for here. Well, that is it for me today. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up and click share. Share this video with a friend or family. And click that notification bell so you can come back and visit me again in my kitchen. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.